I remember saying to my wife several times, I said, over the years, I said, this is not going to last forever. I just want to enjoy every day of it, every show. And so when they told us they weren't renewing our contract, it was a big blow. It was a big, devastating blow. But not in some ways, in many ways, I was kind of ready for it. And so I was like, yep, well, that day was coming. And
do they give specific reason or elaborate?
When you come into a country and say, look, I'm on TV, man. Look at me.
I mean, that's a cool flex. I mean, name a cooler flex than I'm on NBA TV.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was great. And we did 6 seasons at NBA TV, 6 years. And it was just as awesome as people can imagine it to be. We were there with friends discussing the NBA, going to the finals, going to the All-Star weekend. There were other trips where, I proposed things and were accepted. And I mean, it was the most amazing experience. And the funny thing was, I remember saying to my wife several times, I said, over the years, I said, this is not going to last forever. I just want to enjoy every day of it, every show. And so when they told us they weren't renewing our contract, it was a big blow. It was a big, devastating blow. But not in some ways, in many ways, I was kind of ready for it. And so I was like, yep, well, that day was coming. And
do they give specific reason or elaborate?
I mean, money, whichever. Very
viewership
vague.
Or
yeah,
something.
No, it wasn't that. It was money, which money can cover so many areas. Like, are we not making enough money? Are we too expensive? Whatever. So once you basically, that was all they said. They never really gave us like the complete deep dive description, but it didn't matter because, like I say, when that happens, there's no appeal process or anything like that. You basically have to either, you can either throw a tantrum and get upset and scream and yell at the world, or you can just go, well, this is life. You got to move on, and that's what.
Was
happened.
there other offers to stay on board in some facet to work with, or is it just like, good luck, figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, what happened was they told us in March and they said, we're not renewing your contract, but we'll let you see out the season. So it wasn't like, you're fired for bad performance, because that would have been like effective immediately, get out the door. But instead it was like, we'll let you see out the season. So in that way, I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's, I guess when they do their numbers and their budgeting for the next season, they don't see a way that this is, creating enough revenue, whatever. Again, it doesn't matter. You can demand an answer and you can, sit there and bang your fist on the table, or you can just go, hey, every single person I know in the media world has been laid off, fired, made redundant, position.
I mean, same thing has happened to me in engineering. I was just going to say, literally had the same news one day. It's like, yeah, the department's going under. Like, we'd love to renew your contract, but we actually literally can't do it because we don't have. So I'm sure it's a thing that most people can relate to and understand.
For sure. And I honestly believe as well, those things in life are actually good for you, because it does give you that sort of reminder that nothing's permanent. And every now and again, you need to just like, okay, let's keep going. Let's try find something new to do. And if you didn't have those changes, and if you didn't have that sort of abrupt, change of direction, then you can get stale. So I was disappointed, but again, I got over it pretty quickly, because I'm like, okay, well, what's next? I mean, I didn't, that whole journey to me to even get to that point was kind of unplanned and unexpected. And so I decided that, like, well, maybe something else will come from this.
You mean, now you have such an insane resume and to put that you worked for NBA TV is, they don't need to give you a recommendation of any kind or like get you another job. You can find your own way in the basketball world, probably no problem. So an insane thing to just have on your repertoire.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. Like, it's all stuff that people do know me from the show and from the podcast and things like that. And I try to leverage that as best I can, certainly for what I'm doing now. I try to let people know that,
I've binge watched all your content. I've binge watched every Instagram. So I've seen, I think most of the countries, I don't even remember all of them, but I think I've seen all of them. How much preparation goes into a show like that? Because from the outside looking in, it seems like, it's a couple of guys goofing around about basketball. But I imagine 28 minutes or whatever it was, 25 of television, of a production like that is quite a task.
Yeah, well, it's only 22 minutes, in fact.
22 minutes.
I know, yeah, which is not very long. But what we would do is we would get in around sort of noon, 1 o'clock to prepare for like a 7 o'clock show. And most of the topics kind of presented themselves the night before. You could get, for the most part, an understanding of what you were going to talk about. And so we would prepare like, okay, we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to do this and this and this. But we wouldn't then say to each other like, okay, what's your position going to be? What angle are you going to take? We would then let that part of it become natural, because it's like the conversation you and I are having right now. Like you just sort of, it's like playing tennis. You sort of go off each other, go where the conversation takes you. So it was always a mix of like, okay, I'm going to prepare. Like my own philosophy was, I'm going to prepare for both sides of the argument, because if Tass says one thing, then I don't want to just go, yeah, I agree, Tass, you're right. That's boring TV. But I also don't want to fabricate an argument or fabricate any sort of like, well, I'm just going to go against him no matter what he says. Because I think that's also bad TV. You know, the ESPNs do that sort of stuff where it's just, you know, they like someone will tweet something, then they'll start debating.
It's getting old quick. It's getting older and older, quicker and quicker.
Yeah, and for some, you know, again, at my age, I think just with a bit of life experience, like I don't want to hear two people arguing when neither of them really believe what they're saying. You know, so I would try to prepare, you know, so that I could have counterpoints and you know, maybe push him here or there or whatever. And the other guys did the same. So we were kind of always ready to just at least create a conversation without it being a, you know, this argument that is just this hot-tempered
drama fest.
Exactly, screaming at each other. And then, you know, within the show, you know, at times, the way I loved it, most of our shows, in fact, 99% of our shows were live, which was awesome, because there's such an energy when it's live, knowing that you screw up and you can't take it back.
Right.
So it gets the adrenaline going. And the times that we did have to pre-record for whatever reason, there was, you know, an issue here or there, it happened. They always took so much longer, because when you were pre-recording, if you make a mistake, you could say, no, let's start again.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. And everyone's just like, oh.
The energy goes down. You can feel it in the video.
Yeah. You can, because you're like, if we make a mistake, we know we've got a safety net here. Whereas live, it's like, and there were times I said things on the air where I'm just like, oh my God, what am I, you know? So, but you also,
and the guys would jump on. That's what made the show fun. The guys would jump on it immediately and, you know, tease a little bit. That's what made the show fun.
Yeah, but you also realize, like, it was usually most of the time you felt it was way worse than it actually was.
Right.
You were like, no one else really cared that much. But, you know, you would say things from time to time, and you would come off the show and just like, oh, I'm going to get killed on Twitter. And then you would come home and open Twitter and you know, maybe
no
one
one,
or two. Yeah.
No one cares.
No one would really care that much. You know, so for the most part, it was never quite as bad as it felt in the moment. But again, I would never ever choose the pre-recorded over the live stuff, because the pre-recorded stuff just felt like you had to sort of get yourself up for it, whereas the live stuff, you know, it was like running a marathon where you're just like, don't stop, man, just keep going. And you know, that was always really, really good fun.
The show had this interesting middle ground, because none of you guys were professional players, so it wasn't like a TNT style, you know, three massive personalities being held together by Ernie, who's hilarious himself, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't like an ESPN drama fest where guys would agree to have outrageous takes just for the sake of clickbait and outrageous takes. So that's why I kind of fulfilled this middle ground that didn't really, well, maybe it did exist, but I didn't see much of it in that time.
Yeah, well, and you know, that was the thing. We never pretended that we weren't, you know, former players. It was always like, hey, we're just fans, like everyone else is. And so often, people would email or message and say, "Man, me and my friends could do your job." You know, it's saying like, you guys aren't anything. And I would write back and say, you know, that's a compliment, you saying that, because you could. We're just the same as you, man. No one
go out and do it.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't sit down one day and have this plan and this blueprint. It was just kind of like one thing led to another, to another, to another. And then that's the other thing I would always say to people, say, guys, you've got a computer, you've got a microphone, you've got cameras, go and do it. You know, and that's when it was like, I remember a couple of times, you know, people would say, oh yeah, me and my friends, we're going to buy a camera, we're going to go out and do it. And I said, okay, great. Let me know when you do it, and I'll be happy to watch your show do it. When they realize, like, oh, what, you mean I have to actually work? You're not just going to fly me in, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I remember one guy said, you know, like, fly me into NBA TV and I'll show you how I'm better than you. And I'm like, you think that's how it works, that it's just like you don't have to do anything, you just get given a free hit. And so when you sort of say to people like, listen, do your own show and get picked up by NBA TV, and you'll be sitting right at this desk here with me. And that's when they're like, oh no, I don't want to have to go through and put in the hard work.
Of course.
I don't want to do it that way.
Talking smack is easy. Putting the work is hard. Everyone talks. Not everyone walks.
No. And I think it was always better to, sort of, not even shut down those guys, but instead like say, if you want to do it, this is what we did. You have the tools to do the same.
Here's the blueprint. Yeah, you have the full blueprint. Yeah.
So go for it. It's all yours.